The biggest problem with the meta isn't the balance. It's the way we test builds. And I don't think that's because people don't care. I think it's because one good battle report feels incredibly convincing. You change one ring, win a fight. Immediately think, okay, this ring is definitely better. I have been done exactly the same thing. Most of us have also. The problem is winning one fight doesn't prove your build is good. It only proves you built won that fight. Those are completely different conclusions. For a long time, I thought testing mean changing one variable. For example, swapping a hero, fight somebody, look at the report. If the report look better, the build have to be better. It sounds logical at the end of the day, but the problem is that the report isn't only measuring the build, it measuring everything that happened during those 20 seconds, for example. Hero stats, technology, gear, rings, buffs, formation, opponent's range, positioning, who engaged first, how many players joined the fight. One battle report is almost like trying to judge an entire move from a screenshot. You're seeing the results, you're not seeing everything that created. That's when I start thinking maybe we aren't testing builds, maybe we're testing situations. And I'm going to give you an example, something that I did back in the days. Obviously, everybody know about the formation with the Wubu. Right now I have a Tiwa. The only reason I actually use a Tiwa is because it's 1 star. I have Timur and Vwat, but I really don't want to invest even 1 star in them. I'm waiting the next hero. But anyway, this is not the point. The point is, with the Tiwa and my Wubu Legion, I was thinking maybe I should put more aggressive ring for Attila. Because the Wubu ring, where is my Wubu ring? Yeah, a ring of Dicey is giving launching normal attack, deals my damage to the enemy troop. So far it's fine, okay? It's like 20% activational chance. Then I go and put ring of bear. Somebody's putting also ring of wolf. But yeah, I prefer Ring of Bear, reduce all of your hero armor by 20, increase the commander might by some percentage. Now, here is the thing. This is very aggressive build. I just want to point out this thing. And finally, you're seeing how my build is builded so far. I decide for Attila to put a legendary ring that is also doing some damage. And here is the thing. I put a damage ring in one of the pioneer servers, and I make some tests. The first thing is this damaging ring was doing crazy good job. Okay, it's actually killing the enemy very fast. But later, when I start doing some tests with different situation, against more stronger opponent, against couple opponents, it's just different situation. The DPS ring was performing more bad. Till I actually get suggested, and I also find out that tranquil water is maybe what I'm needing, because my legion was so aggressively built that it was just dying very fast. So for the first 18 seconds, the majority of the fights is not going to even last like 18 seconds. After entering the battle, reduce your troop damage taken by 10%, close to 11%. Also, troop skill damage reduction, troop defense, troop health. You get the idea. This ring is providing with some survivability. But before that, I was using aggressive build, and I didn't have this small balance. Now, I totally understand that glass cannon builds is something that is hitting hard, but is squishy. But it cannot be that squishy. So I make a test with one DPS ring, I get some crazy good results, but later with more tests, I understand maybe more survivability is the right approach. And at that point, I thought I had figured it out. The biggest problem had to be buffs. If one player forgot buffs, of course the report mean nothing. Expect that explanation didn't survive for very long either, because I start seeing reports where both players had similar buffs and the outcomes still look completely different. So if it wasn't the buffs, what was? That's when I noticed something I had almost completely ignored. The player. Some players know exactly when to disengage, another stay too long in the fight. One manually target high value marches, another let auto targeting make every decision. One understands positioning, the other walks straight into the bat engagement. Nothing about the account change, only the decisions. And suddenly the report changes too. Now it wasn't comparing builds anymore, it was comparing decisions. That led me to another conclusion. Maybe I simply need more reports. Instead of one fight, I do look at 10. That sounds much smarter until I realized something else. 10 reports can still tell the wrong story. Imagine I spent an hour fighting only cavalry players. My march destroys every single one. Does that mean build is overpowered? Not necessary. I might simply be anti-cavalry build. The moment infantry appear, everything change. The same thing happened with rallies. Open field, 1 versus 1, 3 versus 3, different situation ask completely different questions. Which means every time somebody asks, is this good build? I honestly think they're asking the wrong question. The better question is good under which condition? That's a much harder question, but is also more useful. Eventually, I realized something that completely changed the way I test everything. The goal isn't to prove my build is good, the goal is to prove myself I'm wrong. That's much harder challenge. If I think a march is incredible, I do want another easy matchup. If I think a march is incredible, I don't want another easy matchup. I want the matchup that should beat it. Different troop type, different formation, different opponent, different battlefield situation. Because every difficult fight that the build survives remove another possible explanation. That's how confidence should grow. Not from one report, from dozens of attempts to break your own conclusion. And I can give you an example, and this is with back in the days when I was playing with Muan. So far, Hua Muan was extremely solid in the season 1. With for example, I think with a Tiwa, you're building something very nice in the season 1 with Muan. And I was expecting this Legion is absolutely crazy. And I genuinely believe it was overpowered until season 2 come. So here we're having information that is from season 1, and we believe in this information from season 1. But in the same time, we're entering in season 2, where Wubu, which is cavalry and cavalry counter marksmen or archers, just Wubu destroy Hua Muan very fast. It was something like tick, tick, bam. And this information was no longer relevant. So, even if you do some tests, that don't mean things are not going to change after 2 months. And looking back, I don't think the biggest problem with the meta is that the players don't test enough. I think we stop testing the moment we get the answer we wanted. That's the real trap. So if we think this legion should be very strong, for us it's just enough to get couple results where we destroy our opponent. It can be a only cavalry players, as I mentioned. But this is going to support what we're thinking about this legion. But at the same time, it can be completely bad against swordsmen or maybe archers. but we get the results that support and what show what we want to see. It's absolutely the same for other way around. If we think that this legion or this hero is not good, we just need like 1-2 bad reports and we're fine with that. So this hero is going to be just assume that this hero is bad. One good report become our conclusion instead of becoming our first question. So the next time you see an unbelievable battle report, don't immediately ask, is that the new meta? Ask something much harder. What else could explain this result? You just have to know the whole context there. Because I honestly think the players who keep asking that question are the ones who discover the real meta long before everyone else does.